Excel sudah ada ya, Excel.
Sudah, Mem.
Okay. So I'm lagi live on YouTube sekarang ya. Calvin, the screen and time is yours. So please start your presentation.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it, but please make it slideshow, yeah?
Now, can you see everyone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Why it is so noisy ya in your background? Ada orang-orang ya?
Yes, ma'am. I'm at my friend's house.
Oh yeah, I see. Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for the opportunity that's been given to me. At first, I want to introduce myself. My name is Kattiandago, and I'm from the Faculty of Business and Economics. So today, I will be talking about economic inequality in Indonesia. I might be talking about probably like 10 to 15 minutes, and I hope that all of you will be listening to my presentation. At first, what is economic inequality? What is economic inequality? The unequal distribution of income and opportunity between different groups in society. For example, there are two groups of people inside a society, the rich ones and the poor ones. But because of this difference, it becomes very unequal for the economy, because there are people who are really rich and people who are really poor. At this economic inequality, it's talking about two types of inequality. First, it comes from the income inequality. As we're gonna think, this income inequality, of course, we are gonna have different kinds of income, because of course we have different kinds of jobs. For example, in an office, first we have the CEO. Of course, he has more income than the others because his work is heavier and more important than the others. While we have the office boy who just sweep and just cleaning up the office. And the income of each person is of course different. Like for example, the CEO might be receiving $50,000 every month, while the office boy will be receiving probably like $500 a month. The second one is wealth inequality. And this is the wealth that we receive from our generation by generation. For example, like I receive wealth from my family, from my mom and dad. Of course, we have different families and moms and dads. That's why our wealth inequality is different. I might be receiving like a car, a house, and others, while my friend might be receiving only maybe a motorcycle. That's the only thing that he can have from his family. There's a saying, there's someone who said, the name is Freeland, a professor of business administration at Darden School of Business at the University of Virginia. He says it's this: there's a strong correlation between economic inequality and opportunity inequality. This means that if wealth inequality between each individuals are different. Of course, the opportunity also is different. For example, a rich person can easily get in a good education system because he has the money to to pay the tuition, while a poor person might be having trouble to get inside a good university unless he has the scholarship. That's the different opportunity that we will be receiving if we have this inequality, this difference. This is Indonesian economic inequality. We can measure the inequality of Indonesian economic through the Gini coefficient. This is usually being used for the economic inequality. Number one, as is represented as um, the richest people are receiving the wealth of all over the countries, while zero it's represented as is equally distributed the wealth. As we can see from the graph, the Indonesia is averaging from 2007 to 2016 probably between 0.38 until 0.4. This is showing actually a good this is actually showing a good Gini coefficient, and we can see it by um, the the places that is distributed from all the way from Indonesia, like from Java, Sulawesi, Western New Guinea, Lesser Sunda Islands, Sumatra, Kalimantan, Maluku Islands, and Jakarta. All of them have the different economic inequality because they have probably the different income inequality and different also wealth from each regions. But unfortunately, the Gini coefficient cannot say where does this um, economic inequality comes from. Where does Indonesian inequality comes from? Gini coefficient alone can't say where the inequality comes from, but there are three observations that can say it, which are gross domestic product, Gini coefficient, and poverty level. As what I have read, Uganda and the United States might have the same Gini coefficient that's on 0.4, but the difference are United States they have a quite low Gini coefficient because of their high income that they have from each individuals, while from Uganda they have high poverty that makes them to have a low Gini coefficient. So the gap is not so far between each other. Here is the graph, the comparison of GDP, Gini, and poverty in Indonesia. The blue line that we can see is the Gini ratio percentage. From 2000 to 2016, um, the Gini ratio has been increasing. That's also done to the GDP, while the poverty has been reduced. This means that the gap between the poor and the rich is not so quite huge, the gap, because poverty has been lower while people are getting more income, while the economic is being more stable and getting better. Because of this economic inequality, there also are consequences. These are the consequences of economic inequality. There are two consequences of Indonesian economic inequality. First one is corruption. As we know that Indonesia is highly, the percentage of corruption is high. This means that the power of the wealthy are playing among the politics. They're playing through politicians that they can share the money to the poor just to get the vote. For example, like we're going to have what do they call it? Like pemilihan umum. Of course the people who are being the calon, they're also they give them bribes to especially to the poor ones. This means that they're doing actually a small corruption to the society, and this really affects the economic of Indonesia, and it's hardly for them to increase in Indonesia economic inequality. The second one is economic cost. This is actually talking about the power of the wealthy ones that they pay at the politicians. This is also almost the same as corruption, but the short term of this problem is that people that the country is hard to improve their economic because they are lacking of the workforce, the good workforce that the country should have, since the income from each person is getting lowered. The long term is that the wealthy people are playing their part through the economic, through the politics to get the economic for themselves, so they can gain their own advantages, not for the country but for themselves. The next one is tackling economic inequality. This, what I have read, this is the things that we need to do to tackle economic inequality. It's not easy to handle Indonesian economic inequality, but the World Bank suggests some steps to reduce the economic inequality, which are: the first one, increase health and education. If we increase our health services and education services for the poor, we probably will get them more. We will probably get them healthier, and they will get good education from each from the public schools, maybe built from the government. This helps them to build their future, become healthier, and if they are educated, they can have more knowledge, and they can find a work that they can apply, and then they can be accepted. The second one is increased workforce skills. This has a connection with the health and education. Of course, if we have a good we receive a good job, then if we increase our workforce skills, like we give them training, we train them, and then of course they will be trained, and they can do their work better, and they can receive the income quite better. The third one is increase minimum wages. um, as we know that Indonesia, from 2019 to 2020, they have increased the minimum wage that probably pays in the $4.2 million, 4.2 million rupiahs. This is also a good sign actually, but this is in order for the poor to overcome economic inequality, they need to increase also the minimum wage so they can receive much money, and they can increase also the economics. So this can be help the economic of Indonesia to be so they can reduce the economic inequality. The fourth one is tax reform. As we know that Indonesia doesn't have a really good tax system. What I have read that the tobacco company is one of the biggest company in Indonesia. The but you only have to pay the tax like 9 point something percent, which is considered low because the average is for the huge company should be 58 point something percent, which this really have an effect on the Indonesian economic growth. If they um, rebuild their tax system, probably they will have higher taxes to the tobacco company, which can contribute more um, to the economic of Indonesia. As we know that tax is used for the good things for the people. If the rich people pay more taxes, they might be the economic of Indonesia might be increasing. And all of these solutions that I have read, this these are um, that we can say to let the poor to tackle the economic inequality in order the economic inequality in Indonesia to be reduced, and the wealth and the income could be stable and be the same. That's all from my presentation. Thank you. And these are the references.
Okay, thank you, Calvin. About your discussion rules.
If there are any questions, you can ask, and I will directly answer it.
Okay, question please. No question?
I have a question, ma'am.
Okay, please.
Um, Calvin, you said in the previous slides there are two consequences of Indonesian economic inequality. The first one is corruption, and the second one is economic cost. Can you give an example? What is economic cost? Because I already knew about corruption, because I see corruption often in news.
Okay, thank you for the question. In my opinion, economic cost is, for example, is like economic cost is actually about the economic growth. The consequence of economic inequality, the economic growth might be ruined because of the wealthy might be playing around through the politician. I'm giving an example. For example, of course, we know that the politics are, of course, rich people. They might be playing like they should be giving the, for example, they give the money for helping the poor people. Like for example, like $1 billion rupiah to a place, to a village. But actually they only give like half of there, and the half they use it, so it hinders the village to improve. That's why the economic growth of of a country might be ruined because of that. That is my example. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a great answer. Next question, please. Um, I think you can just stop sharing screen because I saw on YouTube that your face is not appear. Yeah, it doesn't appear because you muted.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am.
Yeah,
I'm just using a phone because my mic in the laptop wasn't
yeah,
working.
yeah. I understand. Okay, it's good.
Um,
Okay, question. Another
ma'am, I have
question.
a question, ma'am.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
After that, Christian. Yeah. After chiefly Christian. Christian, are you going to ask question? Did you raise your hand? Okay, good. Okay.
okay, still in the same slide, talking about consequence of inequality. I just want to know your opinion about. I think that corruption somehow I think it's not the consequences, but it's the causes. Can you get it? What do you think about it? In my perspective, I think that the inequality of economic it's caused by corruption. So somehow I think it's not the consequences, but it's the causes.
Thank you for the question. But in my opinion, I think that uh, corruption is also considered as a consequence. Is because, as we can see, that our economy in Indonesia is not quite in a good growth because people are corrupting. This is one of the consequences of economic inequality. For example, economic inequality, as we know that the gap between rich and poor. Of course, the rich people are playing around that they will corrupt the money from the government or from the politics, that they won't be helping the what they say, the people. That's my opinion.
Okay, Kifli, what do you think?
Okay, I mean, it does make sense if we can look at the another perspective that corruption is the causes, or it's not like that. What do you think?
I think both of they are the both. Corruption is the both. It can be considered as a cause. It can be considered as a consequence. Yeah, of course, the economic inequality was caused by the corruption, but because of economic inequality, also the consequence is corruption because they are playing because the wealthy are because they have a lot of money because of course they are playing to the politics um, to for their own advantage rather than for the people. Maybe that's my opinion.
Okay. What about that, Kifli, or any other friend who
Thank you,
wants to
thank you.
give? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, after now is Christian's turn, and after that, Bella. Yeah, Bella raised her hand. Oh no! I guess you would raise your hand.
Thank you. My question is a bit similar with Chief Liquid. But I just want to ask, how come the corruption become the cause of inequality? Because about corruption, inequality, more like to talk about macroeconomics, and I just want to ask, how is the domino effect? How come it become the cause of inequality? How exactly? Uh, that's all. If you can give me some example, perhaps.
I'm sorry, I can't really hear your voice. Can you repeat
Yeah,
the question?
your voice is not really clear, Christian.
Hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, uh, if you could give me some example of the inequality from corruption, because from my perspective, from what I thought, inequality it's more like talking about macroeconomics, but in my point of view, it's not significant for the corruption to be the cause of inequality. In some example, perhaps. My question is just similar like 50.
I'm sorry again. I can't really hear your voice
Oh,
because it's
maybe
like
Christian is asking more specifically. It's just like Chiefly's question, but maybe he's asking about the example. Is that what you really mean, Christian?
Yes, I am.
in my own opinion, an example is like what I said before that the wealthy people are playing through politics. Like they're actually corrupting the government money that should be used for the people. By that, it can cause the economic inequality. The gap can be huge between the rich and the poor. Maybe that's the only answer I can give.
Okay, thank you. Or maybe the classmates want to
Maybe
give
there
any
are.
additional comments or answer. Anyone?
May I add, ma'am?
Yes, sure.
Perhaps from both Kashifli's and Christian's point of view is correct. I mean, you guys are trying to stir us to see from different perspective, in which it can also be viewed as the
Cause.
the cause, not the result or the consequence. But here, I think from the point of view of the speaker, Calvin, he wants to point out that corruption itself is the consequences of inequality. For example, if the inequality, if there is inequality in, for example, in a country, and then go further to the village, perhaps the head of the village, the people who are in charge of the allocated money for the village, because they also experience inequality, they take that opportunity to do corruption. Therefore, it worsened the inequality of the poorer people. That's perhaps my perspective. If people with a position and they also experience inequality, they can, because they experience inequality, make that as a consequence corruption. That's what I can add for the speaker's point of view. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bella. Another one? Another question, please? Because we still have time, yeah? Christopher, do you have any question? Or Excel, maybe? Gadis? Vanessa? You'll be already, yeah? Enrico, what about Enrico? No more question? Is it clear? Okay, so thank you so much, Calvin. You have done your best. Let's give applause, virtual applause for Calvin by pressing the reaction. Yes, it's a great presentation, Calvin. I really like it. Your material is really relevant and consistent with your title that you have presented. And also, I also love the slides. Yeah, it's attractive. You put many pictures which are related with the materials, and also the pronunciation and intonation is good. Yeah. The thing is, you just what is that again? Yeah, the same problems with the previous one is you don't really engage with your audience. It's just like, yeah, you're just speaking. Yeah, you never ask your audience, okay, sampai di sini, are you with me? Yeah, because this is online, and or maybe you can see that they are all paying attention. Yeah, that's why you didn't ask. Okay, but I saw everyone was paying attention. Yeah, because maybe the material Calvin presented was really interesting also for us. Yeah, apalagi most of you are economic students. In this case, you are kalian itu lebih tahu daripada mem about the economic situation in Indonesia right now. So about the mastery also, you answered all the questions well. Yeah, and I also like because you have put your references after the presentation, so it's not like you are just taking it and cuman asal-asal ngomong, ya. So I really like your presentation today, but still hanya kurang di time allocation aja. You still have time to present actually, but you already stopped. Yeah, you still have like 5 minutes. But overall, Calvin has done his best, and I really appreciate it. And I hope next presenters will do better. Yeah, next presenter will be Enrico.